I think those are going to be hotly contested heroes, depending on how much these teams have scouted each other out. I don't know whether I'll actually see a ban on your Queen of Pain or your Magnus, or if we'll see the more standard early Bat Rider, Dark Seer, Nyx Assassin style bans that are more standard and more standard, especially at the higher levels of play. So we'll see what actually happens. It could, I think, definitely go either way in terms of will the bans be very targeted or will they be more open? Usually in tournaments like this where you don't get that much time to scout out your opponents and you maybe haven't played against them that much, the bans will be more general where you take out what the best heroes are. You don't try to over-engineer to a team that you don't understand that well. So we're going to go into the draft and we're going to sort of take a look at how it ends up going. So Faded, we're going to have the Dire side actually having the first pick, as we've seen in most of the games of this tournament. We've had the Radiant sort of, you pick a side and then the other team picks whether they want first pick or not. So we've got R2R actually banning out Undying for their first choice, and Faded actually bans Magnus, so I think they know that they don't have first pick in this game, and consequently they fear that R2R might pick up the Magnus if they don't take it. So even though Faded does, we do see them favoring that Magnus frequently. In this case, they're actually not going to pick it up, and they're going to instead just ban it out and not allow R2R to take it as a first pick. R2R, meanwhile, they take out Undying and Bat Rider. It's actually interesting. You don't usually see Bat Rider banned by the team that has first pick because he's such a strong first pick hero. So sometimes teams will do stuff like they'll leave Bat Rider out of the ban pool and force the other team to actually ban the Bat Rider. And then that means that if the other team chooses not to ban the Bat Rider, they can take it first, and if they don't, then they don't. But R2R, I think in this case, maybe they don't like the Bat Rider that much, they don't favor him that heavily, so they actually choose to ban him out. And meanwhile, Nyx Assassin taken out, and again, when you take out Undying, Bat Rider, Magnus, Nyx Assassin, you leave in heroes like Darkseer, Keeper of the Light, and other heroes like that. And so those are the heroes that teams tend to take up first, unless they have a strong preference for a particular hero. So, going into the draft, Faded has now 2 picks. I think most likely one of them could be Keeper of the Light, unless they don't particularly want to play that hero, but it's definitely one of the strongest supports remaining in the pool. There's a Rubik that we've seen a lot in this tournament. We actually saw Bounty Hunter more in the earlier stages. They sort of faded out as we winnow out some of the earlier teams, which is interesting. And Lone Druid and Queen of Pain also. We mentioned that the Queen of Pain is a priority. Both these two teams really like to play Queen of Pain, and here we are, see Faded actually picking up that exact hero. So that'll definitely go up in the middle, and that provides a very compelling argument that they're going to be able to get that Queen of Pain into play, be able to sort of produce on that. Meanwhile, R2R, obviously since Faded didn't take the Keeper of the Light, they actually picked that up for a support, taking out that extremely strong support option that teams really, really like to play these days. So now they have the Darkseer. Darkseer can run either mid or as a side lane solo. Darkseer, actually not that great of a mid against Queen of Pain. He's more commonly run as a direct counter to Templar Assassin, so more likely we're going to see him as a side lane solo. Queen of Pain up as the mid, and they pick up 2 supports. Rubik can be run as a mid. We actually have seen it do okay in this tournament. It's sort of less favored now than it once was. The Fade Bolt does less damage. It actually got a nerf to it, which made him a little less of an effective mid hero just because he can't harass us effectively. He can't clear out the lane very quickly to push to get the rune control. Rubik mid against Queen of Pain is not going to be able to pick up runes, and she can sort of harass him quite a bit unless he picks up ranks of Null Field. More commonly, we see Rubik run as a support. We'll see these Keeper of the Light and Rubik forming the basis of a tri-lane with whoever R2R's carry in the second pick phase will be. And then the Darkseer will run sort of the solo lane. And they're going to still basically shop around for a mid. Faded, meanwhile, they have their Lone Druid, very versatile hero. He can be run in the side lane solo, he can be run as a safe lane solo, he can even be run as in the jungle or as part of a tri-lane if you really want that to happen. We have seen, sometimes Na'Vi is really the only team that runs Lone Druid as part of a safe lane tri-lane, but it's certainly possible to run him as the sort of #1 farmer in a tri-lane. But regardless, they pick up the Lone Druid and they've picked up the Queen of Pain, so this gives us their mid and a very versatile hero. Sometimes teams will sort of take their first few picks to be more open-ended in terms of what lanes they can go in, and that means that later on, the other team has to sort of keep guessing where you're actually going to run that Lone Druid. Queen of Pain is very, very clear in this regard. She's going to go mid. It's almost unheard of for Queen of Pain to be in any other lane at this level. Just because, you want to pick up those levels. You want to get her ahead on levels relative to the field, and she's not that tremendously able to get what she wants in a side lane solo role, for instance. She does have the blink to escape, but it's just difficult to really... You do want some creep kills, and it's tough to pick them up always on the side lane solo, unless you're a very specialized hero like Darkseer, like Lone Druid actually, who can get a lot of creep clears even when he's in the hard lane. Going into the second ban phase, we actually see and actually I should comment on the fact that Faded picks up Leshrac. So this is sort of they're starting to pick up their supports. If they didn't pick any supports, they ran the risk of not being able to getting a lot of high level supports taken out in the second ban phase, and then not being able to pick any out. So in this case, they actually pick up just the Leshrac. And R2R, meanwhile, so it takes out some of their options. They take out the Beastmaster as a possible side lane solo, also as a possible. No, they would really be a side lane solo, but they do have the Lone Druid as an option for that. And they take out the Shadow Demon as a second support option for Faded. Faded, meanwhile, goes straight to the carries. They don't want R2R pairing these Keeper of the Light and Rubik strong support combo with the strongest carries that are available in the pool. Especially important to notice this Phantom Lancer ban. Phantom Lancer, Keeper of the Light is just an incredibly strong combo that I think Faded expressly don't want to deal with. Whereas Lifestealer, he doesn't combo that well with Rubik or Keeper of the Light particularly. He's just a very strong hero in general. So this Phantom Lancer ban is extremely targeted at the fact that they don't want it pairing up with the Keeper of the Light. And the Lifestealer is more, he's one of the strongest carries left in the pool. Maybe we want to go a little longer than their team. We don't want to carry who's really that dangerous early. So that's sort of the rationale behind that ban. And then the third ban, they sort of take out a strong mid option that sort of trades with the Queen of Pain. Pretty much one for one. The TA Queen of Pain matchup generally ends up boiling down to which player is more skilled. But definitely, if you don't have that Templar Assassin option, your options for how you actually want to deal with the Queen of Pain in the middle are more constrained. And again, if the Queen of Pain gets her form, she becomes the highest level person on the map. She's going to rule the entire map, basically. She can just go around and get a lot of ganks, as we've seen in this tournament time and time again. R2R, meanwhile, take out another support option, so they take out the Chen, and they pick up their carry in the form of Gyrocopter. This is a hero that we see more and more frequently these days. Not so much in this tournament, but definitely when we see our pro level casts, we do see the Gyrocopter pretty frequently. He's got that huge damage both early in the form of this magic damage and the rocket barrage and the homing missile, and he eventually develops into this flat cannon wielding monster. Now Gyrocopter recently, maybe in the last week or two, has actually added this little fillip where sometimes you can draft Gyrocopter, making it seem like he's actually going to be your carry player, your number one side lane safe lane carry player, and then pivot it into, no, we're actually going to run the Gyrocopter in an alternative fashion, and then we'll pick up another carry on top of that, and eventually the Gyrocopter will save up to do a lot of damage. In this case, the Gyrocopter wouldn't be a support like we've seen no Tidehunter run it. He would actually more likely be something like a mid, and then they would run another carry with the Rubik and the Keeper of the Light. So a lot hinges on this fifth pick from R2R, and it'll be interesting to see. Faded, meanwhile, picks up Chaos Knight, and I suspect their fifth pick most likely is going to be Wisp, which will leave them with the Leshrac Wisp Chaos Knight tri-lane, a Lone Druid in the side lane solo, and Queen of Pain in the middle. Now, Leshrac Chaos Knight, in and of themselves, present a very strong combination, just because Chaos Knight can throw out this Chaos Bolt, it'll stun the target guaranteed, and then Leshrac Stun, which requires some setup time on Split Earth, will actually be guaranteed to hit, and you can always land that. So Chaos Knight and Leshrac, just in and of themselves, are a strong enough dual combo that the addition of the Wisp is not generally considered extremely kill-heavy in a tri-lane, but the Wisp might be just enough to lift them over. And then, of course, the value of the Wisp in combination with Chaos Knight is that, you can use that Wisp relocate as soon as Wisp hits level 6. You can get around, you can do a lot of damage, you can take control of the game. We see Team Empire do this all the time. They do the Chaos Knight Wisp, and as soon as they're level 6 and the Chaos Knight is level 6 or 7, they'll go. And in combination with the Queen of Pain, that's even more mobility, even more ganking-oriented play, with the plan that all of that creates tons of space for this Lone Druid to get up in those levels to get farm and actually push while they're aggressively ganking. And that gives them the muscle. If you gank, but you don't get any towers, the other team can turtle up tighter and tighter, and eventually just your Chaos Knight's farm will flatline and he won't be able to get much done. What you can do instead, and they do pick up the Wisp, is run the Chaos Knight and the Wisp, the Chaos Knight and the Lone Druid, and then you have this backup plan that will just steamroll towers as soon as there's space for him to do so. R2R, meanwhile, take a non-traditional pick for their last pick, and they do get a mid. This is going to be the Death Prophet mid, and the Gyro will be run as a safe lane carry. So they're going to be running Gyrocopter, Keeper of the Light, Rubik. They actually could run an aggressive tri-lane, so we'll see if they choose to do that. But more likely, I think they're going to run that as a traditional tri-lane up in this top safe lane for Dire, and they're going to run the Dark Seer bottom as a side and solo with, and that'll be R2R's approach for this, with the Death Prophet middle. So we haven't discussed Death Prophet yet. Death Prophet's an interesting hero. She's sometimes run as a mid. She's sometimes actually, she varies in terms of how you want to build her item-wise. Some people play her as this extremely tanky carry, Basically, if a Death Prophet can live for the entirety of time that it takes for her Exorcism to go out, her ultimate, basically for it to start up, spend its entire 30-second duration, and come back in, that's almost more damage than very, very few heroes can actually put out as much damage as this one spell will do. And it does physical damage also, it's just worth noting. So the question then becomes, how do we keep the Death Prophet alive for that long? And if the enemy team focuses the Death Prophet, how can we get value out of that anyway? So frequently Death Prophet is built extremely tanky, and she's almost built as sort of a carry role, a tanky carry role, because she's got quite good strength gain as well, so she gets a lot of HP naturally. And additionally, people will get things like Bloodstone, people will get things like Heart of Tarask, and those things give her a lot of survivability. She really stays in there to throw out repeated silences on large areas of enemies. It makes her quite good against Queen of Pain. If Queen of Pain blinks in and Death Prophet is able to silence her before she does anything, not a lot is going to be gotten down by that Queen of Pain in that team fight. And additionally, she has this Exorcism. Now, it's worth noting that Fated actually doesn't have that much in the way of hard disables. We've seen a lot of group AoE stuns drafted in this tournament, but not in this game. The only AoE stun on Fated is really this Leshrac Split Earth. And the Chaos Knight is a single target stun, and Entangle from the Spirit Bear on the Lone Druid is a conditional stun. Fated actually running in trying to get a gank off already, but there's a ward right here. They will actually plant the ward to disrupt the creep spawns here, the creep pull. And Fated is actually going to run an aggressive tri-lane with the Chaos Knight, Leshrac, Wisp. Now, this is an interesting choice, and I don't want to say it's necessarily that questionable, but I'll say what the issue with it is. The reason why people typically run the Chaos Knight, Wisp, and Leshrac type lanes as a safe lane tri-lane is because if these three heroes are together, they're receiving, less XP each because all three of them are sort of participating in the XP game. Now, when you're playing in your safe lane, your tri-lane can split up with two of the heroes mostly spending time in the jungle, your supports, and the carry mostly spending the time here. And if the opposing solo ever tries to sort of come up to the lane, that's when the other two players come out and just immediately get a kill, immediately push them off the lane. But in general, your XP is a little more diffused among these players. You get a little bit more on the primary carry and a little bit less on these supports. In an aggressive tri-lane, you really have nowhere to put this Wisp and Leshrac other than in the lane. So on the one hand, maybe you can keep Gyro off the lane more and reduce his farm, which is fantastic. But the level 6 on the Wisp and the level 6 on the Chaos Knight will be a little delayed. And so the time when they can actually begin running around and getting those kills is going to be concomitantly be delayed as well. And that might be an issue. When you're Chaos Knight and Wisp, you do have a window in which you really want to get those kills, in which you really want to go ham on the opponents, as it were. So if you can't do that because you hit level 6 a little later than you were anticipating on that Wisp, that's going to be a very problematic situation. So I think Fated definitely have to hope that they're actually able to secure kills in this top lane against this tri-lane. And in that case, they're totally fine. Actually, Reality Rift going out from the Chaos Knight, only a 1-second stun, so the Leshrac stun lands, however, so they're doing a lot of damage to this Gyrocopter. Rubik puts the Chaos Knight up and down, and actually double allocated from the Leshrac in a very smart position, and that'll be first blood. R2R actually able to counter. If they get this Chaos Knight, I think it was worth it for them. Actually, Death Prophet rotates, and that's ideal to actually get that Chaos Knight. 2 kills for 1, and Fated actually don't end up getting that much out of that. They do get the first blood. Who actually got the first blood credit? Leshrac gets the first blood credit, so not Chaos Knight, but they lose a Chaos Knight in the process. They lose their Leshrac, and so not actually that as favorable a trade for them as you'd think. Gyrocopter actually electing to walk back rather than teleporting. I don't know if I agree with that, but... And that leaves basically this situation. At the bottom lane, we have a solo versus solo. Now, Lone Druid does not find the solo lane against Darkseer that problematic, but this is a lane where both heroes will be able to get farm. We see the Lone Druid essentially, he has 15 last hits, Darkseer only has 10, but he's sort of catching up. It'll be fairly close. Now, the Spirit Bear will cop a lot of the damage from the Darkseer's Ion Shell, but the Lone Druid himself will not. And actually, in a luck-based situation, if the Spirit Bear, once it actually hits, does it have Entangle? No, not until it hits level 5. Once it's level 5 and that Spirit Bear gets Entangle, that's damage that Darkseer actually can't immediately respond to. One of Darkseer's strengths in this lane is that he can get away very easily, but he can't actually haste himself out of an Entangle until that Entangle has run its course. So Lone Druid can do a lot of damage with that Entangle every time it actually comes off. And actually, you see, he has actually picked up that Entangling Clause, so he's going to be trying to entangle the Darkseer whenever possible, get an additional little bit of damage with that Orb of Venom, and hope that that really gains him the supremacy in this lane. It has to be said, Lone Druid is doing great in terms of farm. He has 24 last hits, he has this very safe solo lane. They didn't have to sort of run the iffy-ish Lone Druid solo side lane. It's very possible, but it's very difficult, very high execution check. Only players like of the caliber of Admiral Bulldog can really get it right 100% of the time. Meanwhile, there's action up in the top lane again. Leshrac going out, and Leshrac is just such a high damage dealer. This Keeper of the Light, amazing dodge of the stun there. And they're chasing Keeper of the Light, but meanwhile, at top, Chaos Knight is going to get a pick off, possibly, on this Rubik. He does get the kill on Rubik. Gyrocopter, meanwhile, continuing to deal damage to him. And they might not get him. I think Chaos Knight is going to make it out of this safely. So, Keeper of the Light manages to not die, which is very impressive. But on the other hand, neither Leshrac nor Chaos Knight take a fall either. Gyrocopter just ran out of mana. He wasn't able to get that second Rocket Barrage, which would have killed off the Chaos Knight. So in terms of the top lane, I think Faded are actually feeling pretty good now that they got that kill, because the Chaos Knight actually has 10 last hits and 8 denies, whereas the Gyrocopter has 9 last hits and no denies. So actually, if you look at the XP, Chaos Knight may well be ahead. Yeah, he's actually at level 4, whereas Gyrocopter isn't through level 3. So their fears about the leveling situation may be somewhat allayed. Now, the Wisp is only level 3 and has nothing in inventory, but that's maybe not the end of the world. You don't need your Wisp to hit level 6 that early. Check this out. This is exactly what I'm talking about. The Entangle goes out in the Darkseer, and he cops quite a bit of damage from it. Now, luckily, Ion Shell was in range, so the Bear cops quite a bit of damage as well, but he's only got 50 seconds for this cooldown for the Bear at this point. Meanwhile, let's take a look at middle, and Death Prophet definitely holding her own in mid. Death Prophet, I think, is a somewhat underrated middle hero, just because this Bat Blast is able to deal a ton of damage. Bat Blast. Bat Blast is the ultimate of the Queen of Pain analog in the terrible video game Heroes of New Earth. In this game, Death Prophet's Q is called Crypt Swarm, but it sends out a swarm of winged beasts that look exactly like that, so I always call it Bat Blast, because I'm bad. At any rate, we actually see that the Death Prophet has pretty much parity, if not a tiny bit of an advantage against this Queen of Pain. And you can see with this bottle, she's able to deal damage to Queen of Pain from a larger distance than Queen of Pain is actually able to deal damage to her. So one thing to note is that Death Prophet's base range is actually higher, so it's 600 to 550. But more importantly, Queen of Pain needs to get really close to Death Prophet to deal damage to her, whereas Death Prophet can deal damage to Queen of Pain from a very long distance. Unfortunately, she's going to lose the race to this rune. So Queen of Pain actually... Oh, actually, Queen of Pain doesn't pick up the illusion because she can't, because this Bat Blast would have killed her. So Queen of Pain, forced to run off, loses the race to the illusion rune, and consequently, she's going to have to go all the way home, and that's a substantial advantage for Death Prophet in this lane. Meanwhile, Darkseer is sort of just stealing farm from Lone Druid at this point. He's actually gone beyond the bottom tier 1 tower and farmed up creeps here so they go through. Lone Druid, meanwhile, doing sort of somewhat of the same thing, collecting the Darkseer creeps as he can and pulling them back. So this Darkseer has picked up the Soul Ring. This will give him just the maximum number of Ion Shells, which is really what he needs to farm and to be a nuisance in this lane. Death Prophet, meanwhile, now that she's sort of secured the advantage in the lane briefly, is going to immediately use her ultimate and her Exorcism, which is going to throw out these spirits and do some damage to this middle tower. This is the great thing about Death Prophet mid. You can really pressure the middle tower in a way that not many other mids can. And so she's going to just keep, as soon as Queen of Pain comes in here, she'll do quite a bit of damage to her with the Exorcism, and then go back on the tower immediately after. Unfortunately, she runs out of creeps. But that's already a decent amount of damage going on the tower, more than 300. So this Death Prophet definitely making herself a nuisance, definitely justifying the pick so far. Meanwhile, let's take a look back at top. We've actually got Leshrac and Wisp seem to be considering roaming. They're actually currently counter-warding, so Faded want R2R to not understand if the Queen of Pain is traveling here, because that's the scale tipper. If the Queen of Pain comes in here pairing up with these 3 heroes, that will be deaths. That will be heroes on R2R that they're going to bring down. So if they can't, if R2R sees them, then that's much more difficult of a proposition for them. But now R2R has actually now that they have no vision of this area, the Queen of Pain becomes much more dangerous, as long as they, don't know that she's in mid. The problem for them is Queen of Pain is fairly underdeveloped. You'd expect Queen of Pain to be doing a little better than this, but this Death Prophet has been playing really, really immaculately on this hero, just quite well, bringing a lot of tangos to lane just to make sure that if any harassment damage from the Queen of Pain, she could just immediately heal up, and meanwhile she could just harass her with Bat Blast. She's actually done with her tier 2 boots. She's got this phase boots, whereas Queen of Pain is still, she's actually basically at her tier 2 boots as well. They're going to race for another rune, so Queen of Pain actually has another blink coming up in 5 seconds, but Death Prophet is much, much faster. With these 3 ranks of Witchcraft, Death Prophet has 12% increase on her phase boot movement speed. So that's very, very, very high. Her base movement speed is terrible, but once she adds this phase boots on, once she activates phase boots, she moves quite speedily. So, meanwhile, let's take a look at how the top lane has been developing. So, neither Gyrocopter nor Chaos Knight actually getting very much in the way of farm, so substantially behind their solo lane and mid lane heroes. Now, you're happier with this if you're Chaos Knight than you are if you're Gyrocopter. Because if you're running Gyrocopter as your primary farmer, you're really expecting him to get a lot of items. You're really expecting him to develop a little more than just getting the Tranquil Boots and the Magic Wand. Whereas if you're Chaos Knight, you're actually okay with the amount of farm that he currently has. He has his power shreds, he's going to get his armlet, and maybe drums. And then he's happy just going around killing with Wisp. He doesn't need much more than that. What he needs is levels, and he has been getting levels. But actually, they lift up the Chaos Knight in response to him jumping in, and I'm not sure he actually can jump anymore. Leshrac done completely whiffs, and they just peel Leshrac off immediately. That Rocket Barrage, if there's nothing around to absorb any more hits from it, is going to deal a lot of damage. So the Leshrac goes down, and once again, I mean, this is going to come down to, this early to mid-game is going to come down to how much Faded is able to deny the farm on this Gyrocopter top, and how fast they're able to sort of get the Wisp Chaos Knight engine online. By now, it's actually a little late. I mean, it's not too late for it to actually have an impact. I'm saying it's a little later than you'd want it to be. Wisp is only halfway through level 4 at about 10 minutes in the game, when in an ideal game, they, and it may be if they had actually run the safe lane, Wisp would be approaching level 6 by now, and they could start sort of teleporting that Chaos Knight around, really putting the fear into R2R in terms of their hero's perspective. Now, Death Prophet can actually... depending on how fast her reflexes are, Death Prophet can survive a Chaos Knight Wisp gank the way few other heroes can, just because she does have that AoE silence. If you can prevent the Chaos Knight from either Reality Rifting or Chaos Bolting you, you're in really, really good shape. Actually, Leshrac pops a great stun on Death Prophet there. Not actually enough to... They don't have any other heroes around to take advantage of it. And this Queen of Pain, again, the story right now is this Death Prophet is getting the advantage on the Queen of Pain a little bit, and that's really important. Two teams that really rely on their strong Queen of Pains, if you can make sure that the other team's Queen of Pain isn't sort of going around, isn't sort of getting lots of kills and really putting a lot of fear into your team, you'll feel a lot more comfortable getting this Gyrocopter to a point where he's relevant. You'll feel a lot more comfortable, with this solo lane Darkseer. You can see solo lane, actually, another trade up top here, Gyrocopter for Leshrac, which actually is extremely favorable for Faded, picking off the opposing carry in return for just your support who's already died quite a few times is great, and you keep the Chaos Knight alive. And additionally, you keep the Wisp alive, which at this point is quite relevant. He's halfway through level 6, so as soon as she hits up that level 6, that'll be even stronger for her. You can see at this point, Darkseer has moved into full-on nuisance mode, where he's just trying to make sure that Lone Druid takes the maximum amount of damage from these creep stacks by picking off the creeps here. Now, this is a gankable position, they can send something to pick off this Darkseer, but this Leshrac probably isn't it, just in terms of the fact that it's going to be difficult to land his stun on Darkseer, and if he doesn't land his stun, Darkseer can easily haste away. Now, Leshrac and Lone Druid, if this Entangle pops off, for instance, if that Entangle had landed, that would be a dead Darkseer right there. But Cuddle at this point, so you can see the level 3 Illuminate is starting to get very, very relevant, because when you're in this safe lane, tri-lane, and you move the creep lane to about here, the funnel through which the enemy team can stand is like this. It actually does end up getting the Entangle, by the way. It does kill off this Darkseer. But you funnel the other team into this type of area. This makes it very easy to shoot Illuminate from here, because you will almost always actually land your Illuminate, and you can barrel down this even if your lane is somewhat down here. Like, this Chaos Knight has essentially no way to avoid that. He goes down to 280. And you can see as soon as this Keeper of the Light hit 5, the character of this lane changed in a substantial way, because now Faded have to be very, very careful about just copying hits from this Illuminate. It's so good against a pack of 3 heroes. That's like almost the ideal case. If you hit 3 heroes with it, your Illuminate is doing an enormous amount of damage to them, more than almost any other spell can. Darkseer jumps in and immediately gets entangled again. Will he actually get chain entangled? This is the tough thing about landing against Lone Druid. You can just get chain entangled down, and then it's so hard to get away. If this just procs into procs into procs into procs, I mean, it's only a 20% chance, but sometimes everything lines up. Faded have actually 2 heroes that are RNG based, basically. They've got the Chaos Knight, who is the famous RNG hero, and Lone Druid, who nobody talks about as being an RNG hero, but it's almost as much of one. Queen of Pain manages to get a pick off that's very substantial on the Keeper of the Light. They're actually chasing this Rubik as well. They get the stun, and that's going to be a dead Rubik right there. Excellent play from that Wisp there. Not even hitting level 6 until after that fight, but a double kill on both of these supports is extremely good. And the double kills on Queen of Pain, and that's the bust out that she really wanted. Queen of Pain really wanted to get some of those kills, get back the advantage that she sort of lost by losing mid by even a slim margin. But Death Prophet is going to take this tower, so Death Prophet, if you take a Death Prophet, you are not going to get the ganking presence that you get from a Queen of Pain, full stop. It's not going to happen. But what you can do is push towers. Every time Queen of Pain leaves the lane, you can take a tower. Gyrocopter, meanwhile, taking only a 2-second stun, but this might be enough damage just from the Leshrac and company. Great pour down by the Darkseer. This is exactly who they needed. Unfortunately, at level 9, he doesn't actually have his ultimate 8. They usually take it at 10 and 11. And Leshrac manages to pick off the Gyrocopter, so they lose the Gyrocopter and the Darkseer as well. So that didn't go quite the way they planned, unfortunately. The Leshrac and the Chaos Knight escape on low health. This is Chaos Knight's like 3rd or 4th low health escape, and they cop another death on the Gyrocopter, so this is tough for R2R. Now this Gyrocopter is 0-3. He's rushing towards his BKB, but again, that's a very defensive item. He's going to need more than that to actually become a relevant hero. The good news, this Death Prophet is doing fantastic. Mechanism is completely done, so this is a very, very early mechanism. You won't see anything like it on the Radiant side. And she's able to push very effectively. This Lone Druid is not going to be able to cop this Death Prophet. She's probably the highest level person on the map. Actually, no. Queen of Pain with all the kills that she participated in, and Lone Druid is one higher level as well. So they're not quite able to get this tower down. Very close. Most likely they're going to get a deny. And Chaos Knight with a huge Reality Rift there. Very, very key. The mechanism is pop, but it's not enough to keep the Keeper alive. So Keeper of the Light goes down again for his second death. And you see the great mobility of Faded sort of starting to come into play. They're all over the map right now. They're really picking off R2R in various spots. And Queen of Pain, meanwhile, doing a little pushing of her own as well. Now, she's not nearly as effective of a pusher as the Death Prophet is, but she can do it in a pinch if nobody's around. So this Lone Druid getting very, very big. Does he have the Midas, actually? No, he has gone Midas, so he's got the Midas on the Lone Druid. So that's even more development that he's getting. The Gyrocopter is not. You can see that the Lone Druid is dramatically ahead of the Gyrocopter in terms of primary farmers. And that really comes down to the fact that aggressive tri-lane was able to deny quite a bit of farm. And another fight breaking out here, Rubik actually getting taken down early right by that Chaos Knight Wisp teleport. And that's what we're talking about. The Wisp now has hit level 6. The heroes, some of the supports on R2R aren't that high level yet. You've got this level 6 Keeper. You've got Rubik, who isn't even level 6. He's not able to do any of those strong spell steals that Rubik's is known for. A Rubik who's level 5 at 15 minutes isn't like, you know, it's just not doing that much for you. It's common because he's run as a hard support these days, but it's a tough thing to deal with. So the problem for R2R now is that they were counting on this Gyrocopter to be their primary farmer, but the aggressive tri-lane from Faded was just effective enough that the Gyrocopter has been held down to only 4 to 7 last hits. If we look at his gold per minute, he's only about 253 gold per minute. If we look further at his net worth, he's only the 5th most high worth person on the map. And Chaos Knight just grabs Keeper of the Light in the exact same spot again. So we're seeing an issue where R2R are just sort of getting caught out in the same locations repeatedly, which is very unfortunate for them. They're now down 5 kills. Meanwhile, so Darkseer actually getting initiated on that 2 second stun. Will that be enough? With the Entangle, it certainly will be. Big vacuum coming out for him, but it's not enough with no support around him. So Faded getting those kills, getting that rotation, and that Lone Druid is also getting scarily developed. He's going to have another Midas activation in a second, and that's going to be his Radiance, more or less. I mean, it's going to be his Sacred Relic, to be exactly precise. So he actually is almost at a Sacred Relic. Once they get this tower, which they easily can, you can sort of see the power of Lone Druid to push this tower down extremely quickly. That will be the Sacred Relic, and that's most of the way to his Radiance. That will be extremely effective for him. Actually, I missed another kill. So now this Wisp and Chaos Knight are in full bloom. They're picking off this Gyrocopter again, and R2R, they're not actually that behind yet, if you look at it. They're about, 4,000 behind, but they are absolutely on the ropes because this Chaos Knight Wisp are about a kill or 2 away from becoming uncontrollable and really being able to prey on the Gyrocopter anywhere he goes. He's still, he's about halfway to the way to his Black King bar, and that will help him a lot. But if he never gets there, if he's not able to get there in a timely fashion, this is going to be extremely difficult for R2R to deal with. They sort of started out well, but the Gyrocopter was kept down just long enough, and the Chaos Knight is getting just big enough that he can create that space for Lone Druid to just start pushing and pushing and pushing. And you can see Lone Druid is almost insanely out of control right now already. They're going to get that very timely Radiance, probably about, actually really soon, about an 18.5 minute Radiance, which is quite a good timing. And really, R2R, the only bright spot for them is, they got this early mechanism. They still have the only mechanism on the map. There's nothing, still nowhere near a mechanism on Faded. Leshrac is working on it, but it's going to take a good long while. So I think if you're R2R, you want to do exactly what they're doing, which is you group up and push. You use that Death Prophet ultimate to get as many towers as possible. You keep the Gyrocopter protected, and you really just push through. You can see Death Prophet is actually not using the ultimate. Oh, great deny from Leshrac there. Chaos Knight actually pulling himself in, which might not have been the most brilliant idea. Leshrac gets taken out quickly. Queen of Pain Gold goes down on everybody, but this Gyrocopter is so not farmed yet. He gets killed so quickly. But they do manage to pick off 3. They take out down the Queen of Pain. The 2 Gyrocopter nuke hits plus the damage from the rest of the team was enough to take down the Queen of Pain. And that might be another tower. So this Death Prophet Exorcism has already started beating down this tower. She does have to peel back a bit because she's copying a ton of damage from the tower. She still has 3 tangos from the fact that she started out with 9 in the lane. But this still has about a quarter left of its duration. So some of that's going to get cut down by the fortification. But with this Queen of Pain, with this Chaos Knight not being up yet, I'm not sure they can actually defend this tower. So R2 are doing the exact correct thing. You're falling behind. Start getting some of that map control back. They're actually not able to get it down, unfortunately. There's just not quite enough time. I think they actually might have been able to. They're running the risk of this getting denied. It actually will almost certainly. Well, they might not deny it, but it's so close. They will deny. So Leshrac is going to deny this tower. I feel like they could have possibly downed it. And now Keeper is getting preyed upon. But again, that mechanism saves him. So those mechanisms, the fact that they got it so early on Death Prophet has been extremely key for them. This is something that we don't see that often, but it's actually quite strong. If you put a ranged carry-ish hero in the middle, like a semi-carry, like Viper, or like Templar Assassin, Death Prophet. If you put somebody like Viper or Death Prophet middle that wants to be tanky but also wants to carry a little bit, Mechanism is an amazing choice because you'll get it much earlier than your supports would get it, and the amount of lives it'll save, the amount of impact it'll have is actually very dramatic, and they're going to actually seed this middle tower. So this gives up a little bit of the map control that they're fighting so hard to win. But it's worth noting, they have 4 towers down already. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So they have one tier 2 tower down, whereas Faded doesn't have any tier 2 towers down on them. So the only issue here for R2R, they're peeling it back a little bit, but the problem is, there are 2 problems. Lone Druid has Radiance. So the Bear has Radiance, which is extremely strong this early in the game. It's really able to push extremely hard. It makes his next items come quicker, and it makes him just, holy terror in fights because the Bear just sits there and peels away your support's health. Like, your supports are still very low health at this point. Rubik has 682 health. That's actually not a lot of Radiance ticks, and maybe like 2 Bear melees and a few Radiance ticks will do the trick there. Keeper of the Light also not extremely tanky. Death Prophet, she won't worry about that Radiance, but your supports will start worrying about it. And Gyrocopter is actually going to worry about it a little bit. He's almost to his BKB, so he's getting there. I think R2R are still doing the right thing. They're still grouping up and trying to push. That's really what they want to do. Before they sort of get big disadvantages in teamfights, they really want to push as much as possible. Death Prophet cops a 4-second stun, so that's the ideal case for Chaos Knight. The Darkseer ultimate is down, but they take down the Death Prophet, and that's going to be huge. She doesn't even get a chance to use her ultimate. The Queen of Pain is taken down by the Gyrocopter nuke, but this fight is just going all over the place. They're taking down the Gyrocopter, they're taking down the Rubik, and they're chasing out the Keeper of the Light as well. There's no way that he's going to survive this. This Bear alone can kill him. And that's a triple kill for Lone Druid. Like I said, this Lone Druid is just becoming undeal-withable. And the Chaos Knight jumps in on the Darkseer, who doesn't actually have the mana to Chaos Bolt, so they won't be able to pick him off. But Darkseer is the only one who lives through that. And big issue for R2R that the Death Prophet just got slightly out of position. She got immediately stunned up 4 seconds from the Chaos Knight, and that was enough to take her down before she managed to pop her ultimate, before she managed to do any damage, before she even managed to pull off her AoE silence. And that's going to be another tower. Faded has a very strong pushing composition here in the form of this Lone Druid and in the form of this Leshrac. They can push down towers extremely easily. If they win a team fight, that's at least 1 tower. I'm not sure if they're actually going to go for tier 3 here. They don't have to, so it would be unnecessarily risky. But they're just going to keep farming for now. So this Lone Druid is so far ahead of the map. Let's take a look at the net worth. You can see that the Lone Druid is worth more than double anybody on the R2R team, and more than almost double what Queen of Pain is worth. So this Lone Druid is starting to just be incredibly ahead, and that's exactly what they wanted. They wanted the Chaos Knight and the Wisp and the Queen of Pain, these incredibly mobile gankers, to worry R2R enough to make them spend all their time dealing with them, such that the Lone Druid just gets out of control and starts pushing really hard. And you can see that this Bear is building towards, I don't know if it might actually be a Mjolnir. It could be either a Mjolnir or an Assault Cuirass. The Assault Cuirass is more geared to helping out the Chaos Knight a little bit in these group engagements, whereas the Mjolnir would be just making the Bear as powerful as possible. I think most likely, I don't know, if I were him, I'd probably take the Mjolnir, just to sort of the balling out of control school of thought. But both are options. And again, R2R sort of realized that at this point they're quite a bit behind, but they're still not necessarily disfavored for big engagements. So they want big engagements. They want a fight in which Chaos Knight doesn't start off with a rank 4 stun on them. Additionally, if you stick together as a team, you don't fear the Chaos Knight Wisp at all, because if the Chaos Knight Wisp jump on you, that's sort of exactly what you want there. So R2R, they want to pull off this Death Prophet ultimate, and they want to sort of fight with it and push with it. And they realize that their window for having an easy time in this game is really rapidly closing. This Bear, you can just see how much damage it does, even with just the Radiance Ticks, but particularly with the Radiance Ticks in 1 melee. 1 melee that actually lands an Entangle is like 3 Radiance Ticks on that hero, and that's enough to sort of, deal about half their health and damage. The Gyrocopter might actually cop an Entangle here. 1, 2, 3 hits, 4 hits, 5 hits. No Entangle, but Gyrocopter is actually staying in. He had to pull off his ultimate. Big Gyrocopter ultimate and the Darkseer ultimate is enough to kill a couple heroes. Lone Druid gets picked up. Queen of Pain has to buy back. Lone Druid buys back. So buybacks all over the place here. 2 people get taken down for RTR. So the Gyrocopter just managed to land his nuke, but it was kind of enough. And again, when this Queen of Pain ultimate, it lands for the entire duration. It's so much damage on Faded's heroes. The Queen of Pain is back, but she's actually has to leave immediately, or lest the Death Prophet ultimate take her down too. So they're going to retreat, but it can't be argued that that fight wasn't in R2R's favor. The Death Prophet pulling back, she's got 67 seconds for her next ultimate. But again, if they start on the Gyrocopter and this Death Prophet ultimate lasts for a substantial length of time, that is going to be a ton of damage. And in a fight, when you have that Gyrocopter ultimate coming down and hitting almost everybody on your team, you have the Darkseer ultimate creating just chaos, it's very difficult to actually locate and down that Death Prophet. So R2R, I think they're playing incredibly admirably. They're doing exactly the right thing you want to do when playing from behind as much as they are. We almost reached we crested the 8K mark, but now they're peeling it back a bit. And you can see, as soon as they make any foothold on the map, they put these 3 wards here. So R2R, what we saw in the game against Gronk was they were up against a ganky composition, and they strove for vision. They put vision everywhere, and Gronk's Night Stalker was completely unable to actually get anything done in terms of finding ganks, because they always saw him. You can see Faded is doing a little bit of a better job than Gronk did of counter-warding those wards. So we know that you want full vision of the map, and we actually won't give it to you. We won't let you have full vision. Let's take a look at how Leshrack's mechanism is coming along. He's actually only about 200 away, so if he clears out a couple of these camps, he will get his mechanism, and that'll be a big equalizer. In that fight, if Faded had managed to mechanism their heroes and just keep them alive for that critical couple of seconds longer, maybe they would have had a better time, especially, you know, the Lone Druid who just got melted. He actually was forced to use a buyback as well. Now, he doesn't mind because, you know, he's got almost 600 gold per minute. But it is worth noting that quite a few of their buybacks are now expended. They've got 3 minutes on buyback for Queen of Pain and 3 minutes on buyback for Lone Druid. So it did set back their biggest heroes from their further development. And so even though this still reads that they're 7,500 ahead, in reality they're a little less ahead than it seems because they had to pay those 2 buybacks. So gold that they earned, this is a gold earned graph, gold that they earned they lost. So they've lost more gold in that respect. R2R, meanwhile, they have a strategy, and they're exactly sticking to it. They understand that there's this danger of Lone Druid getting more out of control and pushing down through towers, but they're going to exchange a tower for it. So unfortunately, now they need to come back. They need at least 2 heroes to deal with this Lone Druid. 1 won't do. He actually ends up peeling back. He understands that sort of there's a danger there. Death Prophet actually ports with her ultimate still going, which is funny. This will definitely clear out these creeps extremely quickly. But again, every time Death Prophet's ultimate is up, they will be pushing. That is exactly what they want to do with this Death Prophet. She actually, rather than Bloodstone, decides to go the Yules. This is going to be really useful. If she uses Yules to cycle in the bear, that's 2.5 seconds that they don't deal with Ray Defense damage. That's 2.5 seconds that they don't deal with the bear whacking on them. Unfortunately, Rubik caught it a little bit out of position. I think he was rewarding, and consequently he cops his 6th death. But, you know, it's not the end of the world to have your Rubik be level 8 even forever, because Spell Steal is good enough. The only thing that changes with Spell Steal is its cooldown gets a little less, and its duration gets a little more. Well, a lot more, but it hardly matters, honestly. 3 minutes is enough for everything you want to do as Rubik. That's one of the great things about Rubik as a support. Once he's level 7 or 8, you have most of what you want from him. The problem is he's incredibly, incredibly squishy unless he gets more ranks of Nullfield, but he's already extremely expensive. Extremely useful in terms of the fact that you can Fade Bolt, you can get your stun and telekinesis, and you can steal maybe a spell and pull it off. One difficulty here is that there actually aren't that many targets for a spell steal that are just going to be game-changing. Sometimes you can do something like steal a Tidehunter Ravage or a Magnus ultimate or an Enigma ultimate. And the nice thing is, even if your Rubik's level 6 and the Tidehunter is level 16, the Ravage you get is governed by the Tidehunter's Ravage. So you get the level 3 Ravage, you get the level 3 Black Hole. So in that respect, it's good. But there's actually not that many extremely attractive targets for spell steal on Faded side. There's the Queen of Pain ultimate, which will be extremely useful if he can get it, but it's tough to get sometimes. There's the Chaos Knight stun, and maybe the Leshrack stun or the Leshrack Edict or something, but that's really about it. Nothing else is really tremendously useful for R2R to pick up. The thing about the Spirit Bear is, if you steal Spirit Bear, you can make a bear, but it doesn't get the benefit of this passive, and this is really what makes the bear good, in concert with all the items on the bear. So he's actually going Assault Cuirass on the bear, by the way, which will help the Chaos Knight out more than it will help the Lone Druid out, but it's still extremely good for the Lone Druid as well. So you can see R2R, they have a game plan. We sort of identified correctly what it was, and that's exactly what they're doing. Every time, amazing denies. This is the 3rd tower that they've denied. Gyrocopter finally gets his BKB, and they're going to take the fight here. Did Faded overextend? That was a huge vacuum. The 2nd hit of the Gyrocopter ultimate does so much damage, and they take down 3 heroes right there and the Lone Druid Bear. So 84 seconds on the Lone Druid. His effectiveness is going to be so prescribed by the fact that he will not have that bear for 80 seconds. And R2R are going to jump right in on that and try to take this tier 3. This is incredibly gutsy play, but does the Queen of Pain have a buyback? She can't afford it. They're going to push this. They might actually get this Rax. This is very dangerous because if they don't get the Rax and they actually get picked off, this is going to be very tough for them. But the fact is, R2R just completely got themselves back in this game. That was an amazing Darkseer vacuum. The Darkseer vacuum there was absolutely correct, and Chaos Knight jumps in. This will be a dead Chaos Knight right here. Does he have buyback? He doesn't have buyback. Oh, he actually manages to get away, so that's big. And Queen of Pain will be up soon, so their time window is closing kind of, but they're able to get the tier 3 tower, and they're going to push a little farther. Gyrocopter actually cops stun, and he doesn't have his BKB. That's worth noting. For 20 more seconds, he does not have magic immunity, and they're forced to peel back. They do actually deal a lot of damage to that Leshrac, but he's finally got his mechanism up. That was a critical item for Faded. They needed that mechanism. They needed to be able to heal their heroes back up. And so now they're on the chase. Rubik does get out. This Lone Druid is just chasing solo, and Chaos Knight and Wisp jump in, but again, that Gyrocopter nuke paired with the Darkseer Vacuum is very, very useful. Gyrocopter still doesn't have his BKB. Oh, with 1 second remaining on the BKB, he gets picked off. So Faded finally earn a kill from that. But, and it's a big but, the first team to broach the high ground has been R2R, which I don't think you would have expected even as recently as 3-4 minutes ago. They're actually still chasing this poor Darkseer, but there's no way they're going to get this. They actually used the reload kit already. Credit to Faded. That was incredibly gutsy play there. You just almost got Raxed. No, we're going to take the Wisp and we're immediately going to relocate on top of them. We're going to get them, goddammit. And this is really, really high level play, right? Because they know that now they're in a little bit of trouble, and they immediately like, okay, we'll do very high pressure, we'll push this lane all the way back, we'll make you scared, and we'll get the Roche. So that's the thing that will really put this game back in Faded's corner, is getting this Roshan. And it's going to be very quick indeed. How are they actually killing this quickly? Oh, it's really the Assault Cuirass. It reduces his armor. Armor reduction effects are extremely effective on Roche because he's a very high health point target with not a lot of armor. So you can get his armor negative, and you can kill that Roshan extremely quickly. So using that Assault Cuirass exactly for the ideal purpose. And getting that Roshan, that's another 1.5k gold in their bank. And who actually picked it up? Was it Lone Druid? So Lone Druid picks it up. Now, what's worth noting is that for 70 seconds, they actually can't resummon this bear. So if you die with the bear and you're on cooldown for the bear, or worse, if the bear dies, you resummon it and then you die, the Aegis is almost completely useless. And that's sort of the potential pitfall of using this Aegis on Lone Druid. But nonetheless, he is 6-1. He's feeling pretty comfortable, and he's feeling pretty confident that he won't actually lose the bear before he dies himself. Because right now he's far less tanky than the bear, as the bear has 2,700 and an Assault Cuirass, whereas Lone Druid just has 2,000 and the benefit of the Assault Cuirass that comes from the bear. Assault Cuirass, so it's giving the bear like 20 armor. Yeah, 10 armor plus the 5 armor, so 15 armor. Whereas it's only giving the Lone Druid the 5 armor bonus from the Assault Cuirass. So R2R sort of forced, now they understand that they're sort of in danger for now the game, who wants to slow the game down, who wants to speed it up, sort of changes around, because now that the Lone Druid has Aegis, it's going to be more difficult for R2R to convincingly take these teamfights. They've had 2 amazing teamfights just now, very, very effective, where they were able to get the kills that they wanted. They were really able to take a substantial advantage and almost take the racks. If they had taken the racks, I think they would have just felt extremely comfortable. The fact that they didn't take the barracks means that they have to be a little careful now that they gave up Roshan. For the next 5 minutes, this Lone Druid has 2 lives. Do you feel confident that you can beat a team fight with a Lone Druid that comes up again in the middle of it? They're not feeling so confident, and consequently R2R pulling back, playing a little more defensive than they were. They were playing extremely scrappy, extremely open Dota when they were behind, because, the idea is, if you're behind, but not so behind that you're penned up in your base, there's really no excuse to play that extremely defensive scared Dota, because what happens is you'll fall further behind. You need to sort of think of how, if you can turtle and you have a purpose to it, like, okay, we'll turtle just until our carry hits his next item, then that's one thing, that's useful. But some of the time you have to decide, well, we can turtle, but we're just going to fall further behind, and we're going to sort of bake in our loss. Instead, we can play more offensively. We can do these pushes with Death Prophet and really try to get the initiative back in this game. And they really did. The gold actually hasn't changed, but definitely the pace of the game substantially changed with those team fights. The reason the gold hasn't changed is because they sort of have been cooped up. They've had to always play as 5. Right now, what they're trying to do is bait with the Gyrocopter. They've got their entire team smoked. They're hoping that Faded initiates on them. For instance, with the Chaos Knight Wisp relocate, that would be extremely consequential in the sense that the Chaos Knight Wisp would die from that relocate. But Faded, too smart for that sort of cheap trick, they are going to smoke as well. So they are going to smoke on top of the smokestack. You can see they're sort of, as their smoke runs out, they're sort of hiding in the trees. So R2R are hoping that the smoke sort of pays off with the sort of dual smoke with the trees. But this Rubik is quite a bit separated, so this is interesting. Did they see them coming? They actually do see them coming because they see the radiance damage on the creeps. Wow. Wow, this is by far the highest level game that we've seen so far in this tournament, or that I've expected it, because the radiance damage coming out from the bear tipped R2R off that there was a counter smoke gank coming from Faded going this way. So they hide all their heroes and they port everybody out. Not a single person gets left behind. R2R gets out completely safely. They lose no heroes and really are none the worse for wear. The problem is this Queen of Pain is starting to get pretty substantial, and the Lone Druid is getting substantial. Every team fight that R2R has won has been on the back of massive magic damage coming out from the Darkseer Vacuum, combined with the gyrocopter double nuke, we're probably going to get a pause because the Queen of Pain is disconnected. But what we're starting to see on Faded is they're starting to develop countermeasures. So we have the Wisp starting to build a pipe in the form of this headdress. It won't be a second mech. I don't think you'll probably see that. We already have the mech from the Leshrac, but what we do have is the BKB complete on the Chaos Knight, unused. So it's 10 full seconds of magic immunity, which is very substantial. The Queen of Pain has built an Ogre Club. So this could be Aghanims, but what I think it's going to be is she's going to actually build a BKB, so for additional magic immunity. The Aghanims could backfire spectacularly. If she misses the Rubik with the Aghanims and he steals it, the way that Rubik interacts with Aghanims is that if either Rubik or the person that he's stealing the spell from has Aghanims, that will actually do the Aghanims effect. So if Queen of Pain throws out the Aghanims ultimate, Rubik steals it and throws it right back. That is disastrous for Faded. The Leshrac will die, the Wisp will die, the Queen of Pain will take a ton of damage. So I think what this Ogre Club is going to be is that they're going to actually turn this into a BKB. Get magic immunity on that Quap, get it on the Chaos Knight, get enough health on the Lone Druid that you don't care. You do see that he's built the Naked Cloak just for that 15% extra spell resistance to take less damage from that Gyrocopter nuke, take less damage from that Darkseer vacuum. And they're going to hope to just suffer through the magic damage that R2R is going to throw out on them. Also, I forgot to mention the Keep It the Light Illuminate, but I think you guys probably knew about that. And they're going to try to dominate through that. And it's a smart strategy, honestly. I think it's exactly the right thing for them to do. The other thing to note is this Scythe of Vice. So Queen of Pain will be able to disable the target hero of her choice. Scythe of Vice actually surprisingly not that dramatically useful in this game, just because the Gyrocopter will have the 9 seconds of magic immunity. Once he runs out of magic immunity, yes, you can Scythe of Vice him. And if you can jump on him and Scythe of Vice him before he uses the BKB, that's even better, because then that's a dead Gyrocopter. He's still actually not extremely tanky. But Scythe of Vicing, the Death Prophet actually is not going to be tremendously substantial if she's already used her ultimate, because the ghosts don't come back just because she's sheeped. The ghosts will stay out, and they'll do a lot of damage even so. And, you know, Sheep, because Death Prophet's naturally tanky, and will get tankier with this Vitality booster, most likely because we see her with 2665, this is probably buyback gold, and she's saving for a heart. So Death Prophet is going to try to get even tankier, get that heart. I do think that in a very long game, we're going to see this Lone Druid peter out a bit, because he's currently dramatically ahead. When I say a long game, I mean if this goes another 20 plus minutes, because right now this Lone Druid is still a world beater. He's got an Aegis, and he's 8k ahead in net worth. But if this game goes very, very long and R2R are able to not lose a Rax, this Gyrocopter is going to start getting some useful items. So he's going to start getting a little more tankability. I don't know what the hell he's doing now with his Ring of Regen, but we'll see what he actually builds that into. But this Gyrocopter is going to get very scary, and this Death Prophet is going to become increasingly difficult to bring down. And so, Lone Druid, when the game goes very, very late, suddenly the bear just doesn't feel as tanky anymore. It's so tanky early, but it just doesn't scale the way heroes do when you get up to those level 20, level 25. So when you're losing your bear, the thing that's holding most of your items usually, suddenly you just feel like a useless kind of lump. I feel a little bitter about this because I just played Lone Druid and kept having my bear die. But obviously these players are vastly better than I am, so they are most likely going to have less issues with that. And is the Aegis expired? Actually, yes. Immaculate timing from R2R here. They know that the Aegis is gone on the Lone Druid, and they're going to take that time to immediately push. They feel confident. They're going to go all in on this. The Death Prophet actually goes in. She pops her ultimate. She's taking quite a bit of damage already. She's actually going to go down. They're going to lose the Death Prophet. She's still alive somehow. She's up in the Yules. Excellent Yules for the Death Prophet there. She's going to get taken down, but lots of damage is coming out on both teams. Both teams copying a ton of damage. But we see Dire on the retreat here. This Chaos Knight, huge kill on that Rubik. That was actually critical. And there again, this is sort of the replay of what we saw early on. They're so low, but none of them are dead, and they trade 2 for 1 there, which is very, very good for them. They don't lose the Raxes. They don't lose Chaos Knight. They don't lose Queen of Pain. They don't lose Lone Druid. They come close. They come really, really, really close. But they actually live. And on the flip side, Death Prophet is pushed a little bit farther away from her Heart of Tarask, and Rubik dies, which I think at this point nobody cares, honestly. Sorry, Rubik, but you are expendable. And we have a relocate actually going on. Where is this relocate to? What just happened there? Oh, it was just I think it was just a Keeper of the Light summon. It wasn't actually a full No, it was a relocate. My bad for not noticing what that was. We do see that the Wisp is, because the Wisp didn't die in that fight, they just lost their Leshrac. This is actually important because she's building towards something relevant. What the Wisp is building is Pipe, and Pipe is going to be a game changer. If the Wisp gets that Pipe up pretty soon, it's going to be very difficult for R2R to win team fights until the gyrocopter gets really, really big. Oh, and Death Prophet actually goes sideways, so she decides not to try to save up for the Harder Trask. She says that they want a little more effectiveness now, and she builds the Rod of Atos. This is an item that we don't see that often, and it's an interesting choice because in these big engagements, people are staying more or less still, and the fact that it slows by 60% might not be the most relevant thing, but it's true that sometimes they're having trouble sort of chasing someone down. And I think they think that if they do have a successful smoke gank, for instance, which are they gearing up to do? No, they're just gearing up to barrel down the bottom again. So R2R are just going to try again. They only lost, 2 for 1 last time, so it wasn't that unfavorable. The notable thing is that the Roshan is about 1.5 minutes away. So the fight that comes next is going to be substantially consequential in terms of how this game is going to go, because the team that wins, if it's R2R, they will Rax, and that's going to be a very substantial advantage for them. But if Faded wins, they will Roche, which is also very good, because again, that Lone Druid is worth so much money. He has so much equity invested in this bear. They both have cloaks, so that's the funny thing. He's built cloak on both of these units just to make sure that both of them live through the spell damage that's going out from R2R. So bear has cloak, Lone Druid has cloak, and then the bear additionally has Basher, Assault Cuirass, Radiance, phase boots. So that's that's one valuable bear. Meanwhile, R2R, gearing up for a slightly longer game, are building out their gyrocopter. So both teams sort of understand that at this point, a minute ago maybe it made sense for R2R to push, but now all eyes are on Roshan. R2R perching just above here. Once again, they're playing pure open 5-man dodo, not wanting to get picked off by the Chaos Knight Wisp. They know that if Fated see them anywhere with that Chaos Knight Wisp, that hero will die. It really doesn't matter who it is. Maybe Death Prophet will survive, but probably not. So they're never going to travel as Not 5 again. Now, there's a huge downside to this. They will not get the level development. They're going to fall farther and farther behind XP. So you can see that the gold has sort of, it's still going down, but not as fast. But the XP, that's a major issue. The Dire are simply not going to hit the levels that Faded are doing because Faded are farming more. And now and now we see a little game of Bring Around the Rosie where Faded are traveling clockwise, and these guys are also traveling clockwise. So both teams chasing each other. Alright, so we'll see who actually ends up going in the Roshan pit first. It looks like it's going to be Faded checks the Roshan pit. Meanwhile, R2R are all the way back here. That was 2 ships, not even, I wouldn't even say even passing in the night. 2 ships circling each other awkwardly in the night. So no results whatsoever from there. Gyrocopter is building towards his Manta. So he's building towards his Manta style. That'll be very substantial for him. It'll give him a little more survivability, chuck a debuff off, maybe help him get away. But really what they want is the next item. That's the whole problem with Gyrocopter now. He's substantially behind. Oh, actually, wow. So R2R once again playing very bold, but unfortunately this Keeper of the Light is going to die, and they're going to start the fight with no Keeper of the Light. That's going to be tough. They're actually going to have to probably seed this Roche. Oh, that was an unfortunate situation for Keeper of the Light to be in. He was trying to ward, but Faded were already on the way in when he warded, and that might be the Roshan. That might be a fateful Roshan for Faded. Once they pick up this Roshan, which they almost certainly will, I think R2R are just going to try to wait it out. They actually do have buyback on the Keeper of the Light. That's very, very relevant. He could buy back and teleport in. But they run out of, the big issue is they've also run out of ultimate on the Death Prophet. And Death Prophet with no ultimate is not going to be able to deny this Roshan. So R2R forced to, unfortunately, that's how on a dime these things can turn. You lose one support hero, and suddenly you simply cannot deny that Roshan. So it's not just that you lost the support hero. You lost the support hero, and you lost the Roshan, and you put Aegis on one of the opposing heroes, which essentially means you're locked out of playing anything but defensive for 6 full minutes. Meanwhile, Faded... That's funny. Meanwhile, Faded, I think, are feeling very, very good now. They got this Keeper of the Light. They know that the Death Prophet's ultimate is down for a little bit, about 28 seconds, so they'd have to push in the next 28 seconds, but if they can take a fight when the Death Prophet ultimate isn't up, that's going to be a fight that R2R are going to have a lot of difficulty with. And again, that Keeper of the Light, he didn't really do anything wrong. He went up here to try to get a ward, which they needed to make sure that they were going to actually get this Roshan. But Faded were barreling in from the west there. They had no way to see them because they just didn't have enough vision. And consequently, the Keeper cops a 4-second stun from Chaos Knight, which, that's just random. Like, you can't do anything about that. And as a result, he just dies. And with no Keeper of the Light, that's no 500 damage nuke every 10 seconds. That's, a very, very substantial factor. And this Wisp is now crawling steadily and steadily towards that pipe. She's almost at Hood, so 100 more gold will earn that Wisp that Hood. And then after that, it's a simple matter of filling out the pipe with the pipe recipe. R2R, meanwhile, looks like they're going to try to smoke up again. So once again, they feel a little bit more behind than they like. Oh no, they're just team fighting. Team fight Dodo. I mean, they're not team fighting, but they're grouping up as a team. And again, this Gyrocopter, unfortunately, his farm is so slow. He's really his amount of net worth has barely changed. He's stuck at Chaos Knight. This is one of the reasons people don't like Chaos Knight that much, is he gets stuck in terms of the farm he gets. But Gyrocopter's not that way, but because of the way that R2R are being forced to play, he is actually getting next to no farm. And unfortunately, this Chaos Knight is actually about to go up with Heart. So what Chaos Knight's problem in these fights has been that he gets very, very low and has to disengage early. But once he gets Heart, both he and his illusions are going to be extremely beefy. And that is, make no mistake, that is what he's going to make. He's going to make Heart of Tarrasque. And as these heroes from Fated get tankier and tankier, it's going to become extremely difficult for R2R to actually deal with it. I think at this point, R2R have to just feel... they have to get a gem, A. The gem is going to be critical. The fact that Fated can see them traveling places is a big problem. They have to get gem, and they have to feel a little more confident about getting this Gyro his farm. So they need not just the Manta, but they need something bigger. They need to dream in the realm of MKB. They need to dream in the realm of maybe even Rapier, where it's a high-risk strategy, but, you know, this is a best of one. This is the last best of one in this tournament. The winners of this game will go on to the Losers Bracket Finals tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern, and that'll be a best of three. So, you know, you won't fear as much of the consequences of a game like you fear this one. This one it's scary, you know. If you lose, you're out, and that's why these teams are sort of playing very, very tightly. Like, they're not splitting up. They're traveling as five. The only time when you're going to see these teams not traveling as five is when Chaos Knight and Wisp relocate onto somebody, if someone happens to move away. But I think for R2R, it's almost like a game of chicken. They almost have to get that Gyrocopter somewhere. They have to get him somewhere safe where they have the vision, they have the control. The other players are close enough to help him out if Chaos Knight and Wisp jump on him, but not close enough to actually steal any farm from him, even XP farm. Because let's take a look at the level graph. This is a problem. Gyrocopter is level 15. They've been relying on these Gyrocopter ultimates, but the level 2 Gyrocopter ultimate is simply not enough. It's not going to be enough for him to just drop that ultimate and carry from there. So he needs that level 3 ultimate. He needs to be high enough level to contest this Queen of Pain, for instance. And she's level 19. She's got her BKB. Now that she has her BKB, she feels a lot better about buying that Aghanim Scepter. She's almost done with it. She's done with it another 150. And that Aghanim Scepter is going to tear up Rubik, because again, their levels are low. The Rubik is level 10. The Keeper of the Light is level 13. 13 is fine. He's maintaining parity with Leshrac and Wisp. But Rubik being level 10 is a serious problem. This 815 health is a serious problem. One Queen of Pain ultimate is going to do more magic resistance, but still, it's going to do about 600 of his health. So he may not have time in these future Tivas to actually do his spell steal to actually deal damage. Yes, if he spell steals that Queen of Pain Aghanim Scepter and he hits it when not all of Fated heroes are magic immune, that's going to be great. But that period is coming to a close. Soon the only hero that won't have BKB is, you see Leshrac is actually building into it. Wisp will probably never get it. He will get Pipe, but Lone Druid will probably not get it because he'd rather get Heart, and he's actually almost done with it. But the next time R2R push, Fated are going to be incredibly survivable because they're building out these Hearts of Tarrasque. They're building out these BKBs, and I fear that R2R are just going to... They haven't seen Fated in so long that they might not even realize the scope of just how farmed out these guys are. If they run into a fight in which the entire enemy team is piped, I don't think they have pipe. They don't have pipe. But if they run into a fight in which the entire team is, BKBs and parts of a Heart of Tarrasque, are they close? Actually, they're saving buyback, it looks like. But they're damn close. Actually, Lone Druid has his Heart. R2R are going to find themselves in a world of trouble because how do you deal with it? They have high armor, so the Death Prophet Exorcism isn't dealing that much damage. They have high health, so the Gyrocopter Nuke isn't going to take them down. They're going to find it very, very difficult to push. I almost think that they need to play more passive, and they need to make sure that this Gyrocopter they need a backup plan. The just pure magic, we're going to knock them down with this Keeper of the Light, with this Gyrocopter, with this Death Prophet damage. It's not enough anymore. I think they need to get this Gyrocopter up to what they originally envisioned him being. When you pick a Gyrocopter, and when you put him in a tri-lane safe lane, you're essentially entrusting your very late game to the fact that the Gyrocopter will deal unopposable damage with Flat Cannon. For 6 attacks, he hits every enemy unit in a 1,000 yard radius. And that is enough, with enough damage, to kill anything. Very few heroes in the game can actually output the AoE damage that a farmed Gyrocopter can do if he's not disabled. But he's nowhere near that point. All he has is BKB and Manta style, and neither of those are what you actually need to do that massive flat cannon damage. I think R2R at this point, at a previous point, we would say that R2R knew that they were less behind than maybe we thought they were watching this game. Now, I think us watching this game understand that R2R are more behind than R2R think they are. Because again, they're still playing with this fairly safe, the same strategy where we'll push when we can, but otherwise we'll just clump up and protect. But clumping up and protecting is leading to the fact that the heroes of Fated are getting extremely far ahead developed of this gyrocopter, and it may be necessary for them to take some bigger risks to get that gyrocopter a little more developed, to get those big damage items, and to try to sort of seize the initiative in terms of the team fights once again. I'm worried. I mean, I'm worried that they won't be able to do this. Now, Fated, meanwhile, for now, are perfectly content to play this defensive game. They're like, well, they can't beat us if they can't go into our base, so why not just stay in our base? We are so ahead on net worth, and they're accumulating net worth at a painfully slow rate. Our Chaos Knight, who's not known for his farm, it's not a hero that's known for being a good farmer, is having no issue at all staying ahead of Gyrocopter on the net worth. So why would we push out until we absolutely know that we can? We can wait for the next Roshan for all we care. We can wait the next 2.5 minutes for that to happen. And they're actually going to smoke up, so they are going to take the fight to R2R right now. The Chaos Knight has leaped in. I think that's maybe just a bit of a slow reaction because they were like, really? He's jumping in? And here comes Gyrocopter nuke. Chaos Knight actually with the BKB. Gyrocopter with the BKB as well, and there's a vacuum down. There are just a ton of pretty lights here. The bear is actually almost dead, so this bear goes down. This is very dramatic. Leshrac is taken down, and Queen of Death Prophet is still up. Rubik is dead, so he's not able to steal anything. The Scotty goes out from the Darkseer, and they're actually taking them down. They take down the Darkseer and the Wisp Darkseer. Immediate buyback. But again, they've seized the advantage. This Lone Druid is going to go down with no Aegis to show for it. He buys back and he summons his bear, so extremely smart play from the Lone Druid, not resummoning the bear until he dies. It gives him another bear right off the bat, but another fight, miraculously, in my opinion, put together by Fated, by R2R. I honestly don't even know. Just the poise and composure of this team, and I commented on this when I was watching the stream of their last game against Gronk. This is a team that has, I think, almost professional level poise. There's a fight in which, you know, as a spectator, I have no idea what the fuck is going on, right? Because there's every single color in the rainbow is flashing at accelerated rates, triggering my epilepsy. But R2R understands exactly what their order is. We're going to kill Leshrac, because Leshrac is actually a very big issue in the long term. He's exactly like Death Prophet in the sense that if you leave him up, he deals a ton of magic damage in an AoE. The nice thing is Leshrac is vastly less tanky than Death Prophet, and he's nowhere near his BKB. So we'll kill the Leshrac, item 1. Item 2, kill the bear. The bear has tons of items on it, it deals a ton of damage. Lone Druid will be loath to resummon it, and it actually isn't that tanky these days. It's not that tanky at 51 minutes into the game. Item number 3, kill everybody else. And they 1, 2, 3, they did exactly that. And you can see that the net worth of Chaos Knight took a freaking dive there. He was ahead of Gyrocopter and Death Prophet, and now he's behind them both because he had to do that very costly buyback. And now he's about 900 gold away from that, finishing out that Heart of Tarrasque, which is very substantial. Imagine if he had that Heart of Tarrasque for that fight. They would have been able to, he would have been in there so much more. He would have been able to do so much more damage. But R2R, even though their teamfight spells generate an extremely chaotic game situation because you have the Darkseer Vacuum making illusions of everybody, you've got the Death Prophet ultimate sending out ghosts everywhere on the map, you've got the Gyrocopter ultimate generating a nuke, and you've got the horses running around like idiots from the Keeper of the Light. You've got all these factors that make it extremely hard to tell what's going on, and yet they have clear goals and they pursue them. And so Fated are going to have to they are as tanky as they're probably going to be. The main thing for Fated, I think, is they want the BKB on Leshrac is going to be really, really critical, and they want to finish this hard on Chaos Knight. R2R, I think, don't want to give them the chance. They're like, we just want a team fight. I'm still almost surprised that they want a team fight, but they want it convincingly, and so they are going to pressure again. They are going to run in with 5 again. They know that there's no danger of split push at the moment at all, because Fated, honestly, are looking a little lost. They're still ahead. Like, they're still tangibly ahead. They're 16,000 gold and 20,000 experience ahead, and yet they are being repeatedly driven back to their base by a team with a Gyrocopter who, at 52 minutes, isn't even that close to Butterfly. He's about halfway, honestly. He's a little more than halfway to Butterfly. But a Gyrocopter who has BKB, Manta, and literally nothing else. but just the ability of R2R to come out of these team fights somehow ahead is causing Faded no end of trouble. Now, what they can do here, and I think what they're going to try to do is actually smart, Faded, really, really smart. I'm not sure why they weren't doing this before, but they're doing a much better job now of pushing out the other lanes with just the bear, because the Spirit Bear can actually teleport back to Lone Druid's location, so it doesn't matter where it is up until the exact moment a fight breaks out. You can use the Radiance to push the lane way in. You can actually pressure the tower, and this means that R2R's sort of endless bottom push is going to be circumscribed. So it has to stop at the point that the lane, at the point the middle lane reaches the middle tower. R2R really have to turn around. If they go any further, they're really essentially executing an all-in strategy. So you can put the bear over there, you can push this lane way in, and you'll see this. There's 6 or 7 caster mobs here and 2 catapults. This is going to cause a lot of pressure on this tower. You'll see R2R have to peel back. Additionally, it's not just that they have to peel back, they have to deal with this, which means that they can't just immediately take the Roshan trivially easily. You can see both teams also very smart about vision. The only vision ward which is completely irrelevant is probably this one. This isn't going to do anything for them. But the vision ward here for R2R is very good. They had a good vision ward here. You can see the vision ward for Faded here. And this is just very, very smart. This vision that they're getting is very good. Do they have a gem at this point? Yeah, they have a gem on Rubik, which is bold. Actually, Quinnipiac tosses out her ultimate, so it's down for 37 seconds. Now, that's not a lot with Aghanim Scepter, but it's down for a period of time, and they heard it. That scream of pain generates a global sound. But the pipe comes out a little early from R2R. This pipe will actually expire before this fight is taken. Chaos Knight pops BKB, so a lot of stuff being popped for no compelling reason. Are they going to go for the Roshan is the question. It seems like they're having some internal team discussion about whether or not they should actually try for the Roshan. The Necronomicon creeps from Quinnipiac are still here, so they're going to deal a bit of damage in the back term of backlash to this Gyrocopter. He actually has not used his BKB, so that's relevant. The Chaos Knight will not have BKB for this fight, and he won't have Heart. The Gyrocopter will have BKB, and he has this Talisman of Evasion. This will be relevant for the bear. The bear actually runs in immediately. They're doing a lot of damage to the line, but this Gyrocopter, will he not be able to pop BKB? He hasn't popped BKB yet, or is he meant to? Oh my god, the Gyrocopter actually gets taken down early in that fight. The Rubik does manage to throw out the Queen of Pain ultimate in a steal, but it doesn't actually do any damage whatsoever, and they're sort of on the run. The bear is somehow surviving. They're not managing to kill that bear, which is critical. The Death Prophet gets taken down in the middle of her ultimate, and this is a difficult situation. She's forced to buy back. Keeper of the Light ultimate is going out again and again on their entire team, but again we see the fights. When Faded wins, they take a ton of damage on all their heroes, and it's not enough. They manage to get away, and that's 2 buybacks for RTR. That'll set them farther back. You can see the Death Prophet ultimate, the Death Prophet value takes a huge nosedive, and this bear is still getting away. 20 HP on the bear. The fact that that bear survives is actually much more consequential than it seems, because, you know, it's just a bear. It's not even a hero, but it has so much of the value of Lone Druid tied up in it, and Lone Druid is the most valuable person on the map. Quinnipiac tosses out her ultimate again, but it doesn't hit the Gyrocopter. Somehow this Gyrocopter is fine, but if he dies after buyback, this is going to be a critical issue for him. Chaos Knight uses BKB again, but Chaos Knight dies. Does he have buyback? No. And the Queen of Pain is at 83 HP. So with these buybacks, R2R has just gotten enough of an advantage. They'll actually kill the Wisp here. Great tether by the Wisp, managing to get out by tethering to a creep. The question is, will R2R press their advantage? Will they take Roche? What are they actually going to do? They've got 57 seconds with the luxury of not having a Chaos Knight. The downside is the Lone Druid is completely fine. He didn't lose his bear. Actually, did he lose his bear? He did lose his bear. No. I wish I was a better caster. He did lose his bear, I think. It was running around with 28 HP for a while, but somehow R2R managed to find a way to lift off. And what this will be is Aegis on the Gyrocopter, because frankly, if this Gyrocopter is getting into some scary situations. In that fight, he actually had to buyback, so that set him back quite a bit. He doesn't have buyback for another 3.5 minutes. Let's take a look at the buyback tally. We actually have the only heroes on the map that can buy back right now are the Lone Druid, obviously because he has more money than God, and the Keeper of the Light. Nobody else can buy back, and we have more than 3 minutes buyback on all of the dire heroes. So R2R, and you know, they do have this Aegis, but they're in a little bit of danger just because, you know, they don't have those buybacks. I think they're going to seek next to use the span of time afforded them by the fact that they have the Aegis on Gyrocopter, which is very, very dangerous because, you know, Gyrocopter with an Aegis is a great hero to put the Aegis on. It's the exact opposite of Lone Druid, because Lone Druid sort of, once his bear is gone, he sort of shot his wad. Like, he can't do very much until he gets that bear back up. So if he comes up with an Aegis with the bear cooldown down, he's almost completely useless. Gyrocopter, yes, he can't flak cannon again, but yes, he can't call down again, but his flak cannon is pretty low cooldown, and his rocket barrage is such low cooldown that a Gyrocopter coming back up is almost just as good as having the Gyrocopter in the first place. So they're definitely going to try to, now that he doesn't have buyback for 3 minutes, they have no reason to really hoard buyback gold on him, in my opinion. They really want to sort of pick up that Eagle song and finish out that butterfly on this Gyrocopter. And it seems like they won't wait, actually. So R2R, again, every time I'm like, oh, well, they're going to start playing passive. They're like, no, idiot. And so, once again, they're just going to charge in. So again, would you imagine that where the graph looks like this, and the team that's just consistently the aggressor and getting the better, frankly, of a lot of these engagements is the one that's on the wrong side of that graph. But nonetheless, I have to say, once again, if they pull themselves out of that situation, it'll be not for lack of it being dangerous. If they lose the Gyrocopter twice and the Death Prophet and Darkseer so much as once, R2R will have a very difficult problem ahead of them. Because the Lone Druid is such a fast pusher that he can take advantage of the Gyrocopter being down for 76 seconds to just push in a lane dramatically. Now, if he went to top, for instance, look at how far this lane is already pushed. That would be an easy top Rax if they lose all their heroes here. And I think actually R2R acknowledged this. So we see a ping coming out from Keeper of the Light like, hey, we have like a shit ton of ranged creeps and siege creeps going into our top tower. You should probably go take care of that. Nice thing is, this is going to be a ton of farm for Gyrocopter. Look how money bags just pop out of these poor sods. So that's actually takes him quite a bit closer to his butterfly. And he's going to go, oh, this is actually incredibly smart. He TPs out, and then they Keeper of the Light him back, because Gyrocopter is the ideal guy to sort of anti-push that, because Keeper of the Light might do it just as fast, but it won't put gold on the guy you want to put gold on. So that gives Gyrocopter, you know, the additional money, gets him just that little bit closer to his butterfly. If they can get that butterfly on that Gyrocopter, I want to keep saying it's going to be so substantial. 3 minutes left on the Aegis, so they have the time, but they're just going to keep pushing. They're just going to keep attacking and pushing in. And this is honestly, this game is so tense. It's so tense. I love it. I've sort of watched a lot of games that, while fun in this tournament, you sort of had teams just fairly mismatched, and that's really with an open tournament with no sort of standardized way to evaluate the strength of teams going in. You're going to get a lot of games that are looking a little bit one-sided. And some of the games sort of started out not one-sided, and then one team gets a huge advantage and just goes ahead. So we haven't had that many games go this long. The only one I saw was the first day game, Nobo versus CG, which I'll give the link for later on the stream. It's not, I didn't actually stream it, but it was a really, really, really good game. So this is sort of the second game we've seen to sort of go this long, and this game is so interesting because it's really almost impossible to tell who's going to win. What I wanted to say, what I said actually, I think exactly 25 minutes ago, I said, this isn't relevant now, but in like 25 minutes, it's going to become relevant that Gyrocopter gets really, really good really, really late. And we now, friends, we are almost at the point at which Gyrocopter is actually good. But the problem is actually now he doesn't have a TP, so he can't actually go back. They can't do the Keeper of the Light trick with him. And now we actually do see Faded finally emerging out of their cocoon a little bit, doing a little bit of pushing. This Queen of Pain has amassed quite a bit of money, so she has this level 3 Necronomicon. That's actually very useful. Level 3 Necronomicon is nothing to be sneezed at. The backlash damage that those creeps do when you kill them, for instance, with large AoE spells and abilities, is a ton. It can deal a ton of damage to your opponents. And Queen of Death Prophet is actually initiated on. She pops herself up in Yules that gives her 2.5 seconds of that free, and I can't see anything in these fights. The Gyrocopter is running out. He's actually taking a lot of damage. He's going to probably lose his Aegis right now. And the big hearts, the hearts on Chaos Knight, the pipe, the heart on Lone Druid, that's keeping Faded alive. They're not even in that much danger yet. This Leshrac will cop a death, and the Chaos Knight is taking a lot of damage. But again, that heart is keeping him alive. But R2R lost no heroes. Did they really lose no heroes? They lost no heroes. The Fortify is going to run out in a moment, and they don't have a Leshrac or a Wisp, big Queen of Pain ultimate, but they just have nothing to stop this. They're just tanky enough that they're going to live through this, and R2R, with no supports on Faded's side, they might not have what it takes. This Gyrocopter is taking a lot of damage. He actually lost his Aegis already. Excellent Force Staff saving him. The Chaos Knight takes a lot of damage, and he has to retreat. Once again, Faded are pushed back. They waited too long. They were in their turtle shell for too long, and they didn't do anything to counterpush, and now they pay for it. They lose the first set of racks, and that, I think, really marks a potential turning point in this game. This Lone Druid, he's worth 31,000 gold. But that's not all on the Druid. And right now there are 50 seconds until more than half of that 30,000 gold makes itself apparent. As soon as that bear dies, Lone Druid is just, he's completely neutered, because even if you, for instance, move all the items from the bear onto the Lone Druid, there are things the bear is good at that the Lone Druid just isn't. Primarily, entangling roots. That entangle is just, it's so good. It immobilizes a hero. It does damage over time. It goes through magic immunity. The bear and Lone Druid really aren't a divorceable combo. It's not like you can go just like, be like, you know what? I am going to be the lone Druid. I'm not going to be the dual Druid. I'm just not even going to go with the bear because it's holding me down. You need that bear. You need it to be effective. And so if you don't have it, if you don't have the respawn time for it, you're just running around as sort of a slow-moving Ursine Putz without really much damage credit. You're very, very survivable. You won't die, but who cares? They're just going to ignore you. You can't ignore the bear, but you can kind of ignore the dude, kind of. This is why you should never, by the way, play the, like, no bear Lone Druid style. It's really bad. Don't do it. I've done it, and it's bad. So at this point, again, if we look at this, it's like, how the fuck haven't R2R won already? But if we look at this, I'm circling the minimap right now, guys. It's like, how can Faded even win? And at this point, Gyrocopter is actually finished with his butterfly. They moved the cheese. So if anybody asks you who moved my cheese, you can say that the R2R team moved it. They moved the cheese onto Gyrocopter, giving him a pseudo-Aegis. So they didn't lose it in that fight, which means that it's now on Gyrocopter. And they're looking to push down a second tower. So R2R really just playing incredibly aggressively and exactly smart. They sort of knew exactly when to play passive. You know, every time Faded picked up the Aegis, they counteract. And every time they didn't, they didn't. So let's talk about Faded. What does Faded need to do? They have the pipe. They got as tanky as they wanted to get. Do they actually have the BKB on Leshrac? Because I didn't see it in use. This is the big problem, actually. This is secretly the biggest problem Faded are facing right now, which is that they didn't get the farm on Leshrac to get the BKB. Gyrocopter copping a ton of damage there, actually. He has to use the Aegis much earlier, the cheese much earlier than he wanted to. But he does use the cheese. The Rubik throws out the ultimate. It does a lot of damage before Wisp gets that pipe up. The pipe is actually obliterated. This Chaos Knight is doing a ton of damage, actually. The Darkseer will be taken down here. This Darkseer is just incredibly tanky. He was able to live through so much damage there. They trade the Wisp and the Leshrac for the Darkseer. And again, that lack of damage from Leshrac is actually making the difference here. They, without the Bear, and with just the Lone Druid and the Chaos Knight and the Queen of Pain, once Queen of Pain's ultimate is gone, they have no damage. They need the additional damage from the Leshrac, and they don't have it because they didn't get on the farm to get that BKB. And I think... this game has gone on for a while, but I think this is actually checkmate. I think they will not be able to... Yeah, they lose Queen of Pain, and I don't think she has buyback. She has no buyback. This is game. They've won. R2R has actually come from behind to be Faded here. What a game. Wow. And the Rubik, honestly. Like I said, you don't need the Rubik to be high level. You just need him to get that steal. And I talked about how the Aghanim's Queen of Pain might bite them in the ass. And I think it did. I think they actually had to go the weird auto-attack Queen of Pain. Because have you seen how many Aghanim's Queen of Pain screams, Aghanim's Queen of Pain ultimates have come out from Rubik this game? Because it's a comparable number to the number that have come out of the Queen of Pain, and that's a tough situation to find yourself in. They do pick off Darkseer again, so relevantly, this Darkseer does not have buyback for 4 minutes. That's 4 minutes that you don't have to worry about the Darkseer, and that's an incredibly substantial factor. And the Rubik gets taken down, and finally, R2R has to call off their kill push, because they were looking to get Mega Creeps there, honestly. But now, if you're Faded, you have a serious, serious challenge ahead of you. First of all, Roshan is in a minute. Roshan is going to be useful for you, but at this point, I think you cannot put it on the Lone Druid. You do see Lone Druid picking up Boots of Travel. That's very smart. I think Faded's route to win, and maybe they actually should have started this earlier. Maybe they thought that they were more ahead than they were. I certainly thought they were more ahead than they were. But at this point, I think your route to win has to be pushing out these side lanes. You cannot let... You now have a permanent disadvantage until you get these Raxes in both of the side lanes. So you need your best pusher, which is the Lone Druid, to push out both of these lanes as much as he possibly can. Or, which is what they're doing, which is actually just as smart, you want to pressure that mid lane as hard as possible so that when you're ready to push, you can push a lane that's already pushed all the way to the opponent's team base. If they can get super creeps in the middle lane, and notice that this middle... I didn't notice this, but this middle tower is at 45 hit points. If they can just get that middle tower down and clear out those Raxes with that Lone Druid at their leisure... Lone Druid is an incredibly fast pusher if he wants to be. You can see he's actually picked up a Blade Mail also. This is very interesting. I think he should probably transfer the Blade Mail to the Bear, because it doesn't matter at all whether Lone Druid takes damage. What matters is that when the Bear takes damage, he's able to counteract that. Because R2R aren't focusing Lone Druid. They're letting Lone Druid stay alive and sort of... it's sort of like when Prometheus got chained to the rock. Like, they're letting Lone Druid sit in the ruins of his farm whenever that Bear dies. And he moves the heart to the Bear, which is just as fine. You really want the tankiness on that Bear, but I almost think Blade Mail will be better because they are concentrating on it. And R2R take, at this point, an unopposed Roche. When was the last time we saw a completely unopposed Roche in this game? Except when, somebody died and sort of that seeded the Roche. So they won't have this Death Prophet ultimate until, for another 70 seconds or so. But the Roshan on Gyrocopter is also very substantial. He picks up this Demon Edge. This could go to either an MKB or a Rapier. He does go MKB, so they are playing safe. I mean, this is the Losers Bracket semifinal, and it is best of one, so if he got that Rapier and he lost it,
I'm not sure his team would ever let him live that mistake down. But the MKB is exactly what we were talking about. I underestimated the time it would take Gyrocopter to get big by about 10 minutes, but he's there. This huge combo is exactly what they want. They actually get the Aegis, so if they can clear out all the heroes before Gyrocopter gets back up, they will get the advantage in this fight and perform Faded. Darkseer, though, is so tanky, he's able to live. Gyrocopter's taking a ton of damage, he pops Manta style, but this Flat Cannon is too much. It's tearing apart Faded. The Lone Druid is low. The Chaos Knight is low. They've built massive Blade Mails just to return damage to the Gyrocopter, and it's just enough to kill him. They do actually kill him, and the Lone Druid buys back, but they've lost Queen of Pain, and she doesn't have buyback. They didn't lose Chaos Knight. They didn't lose Chaos Knight, but they lose 3. And so we lose the Gyrocopter, we lose the Darkseer. Now we're in a weird situation. Because now I don't know if Death Prophet, Rubik, Keeper can push Lone Druid, Chaos Knight. If they can, then they win. They actually just win the game. If they can't, then it gets interesting. But they do get the Death Prophet. They were just waiting for the Death Prophet ultimate. Huge silence on that Chaos Knight. That was critical. The Rubik stun goes out. But now the Blade Mails come into play. This was credit where credit's due. Faded built the exact correct item in these Blade Mails. Your Gyrocopter dealing too much damage? Build a Blade Mail on everybody. Give everyone a Blade Mail and destroy him before he can actually wipe your team by returning all the damage he's dealing back to him. Like, okay, Gyrocopter, okay, fine, your Gyrocopter can kill every single one of us, but what if we deal 5 times the damage? Then he can only kill 20% of every single one of us. That's the theory anyway. Unfortunately, they're not going to probably quite reach that point. Chaos Knight actually gets killed by the Death Prophet. This Death Prophet, like I said, Death Prophet gets pretty formidable late game. She's holding 8,000 gold. She actually hasn't even used her cheese yet. But they're actually forced to... Are they forced to peel back? I'm not sure they need to. What's this Lone... you can see Leshrac just gave up on that BKB. I really think that BKB was potentially game-changing, just in the sense that if he had managed to get it early and he managed to live through those fights for a little bit longer, now it actually doesn't matter. Now Gyrocopter will kill him regardless of whether he's BKB'd. But in the point where Gyrocopter was still weak, a BKB'd Leshrac running around with Pulse Nova would have been the scale tipper that Faded needed. Now they have bigger problems. They actually dropped the cheese. So once again, they hold the cheese, they try not to use it, and they put it on the Gyrocopter as a pseudo-Aegis. It's one thing to have 2 lives on a Gyrocopter that's pushing down your front door. It's another thing to have 3 lives. It literally is another thing because of the rules of simple arithmetic. But usually it's not tremendously obvious that you can do that. But you can. Even if he doesn't have the item slots to hold both of them, just hold the cheese for him and then move it over. I wonder if I'll actually see a change to that someday in the future, like a year from now. They'll make it so that you can't hold cheese for somebody else. But they get the last tier 3 down, and this is the fateful fight. If Faded can't win this, if they can't prevent them from getting megas, it's over. And the Gyrocopter is dealing dramatic amounts of damage. He's BKB. The Queen of Pain is not able to stand up to it. Even the backlash damage from the Necronomicon is not enough. And Faded are getting torn apart. They lose the Queen of Pain. The Chaos Knight is forced to leave. The Lone Druid is low. The Lone Druid gets taken down. I don't think he has buyback. He does not have buyback. And that is going to be the game. They take down the Chaos Knight lives for an astonishing length of time, considering he had that heart. His heart was incredibly effective. He has the Blade Mail to deal damage back. But it's too much. R2R come back from a shocking deficit. Just an astonishing deficit. And they do it with, you know, incredible poise, and they just get together and they're like, you know what? If we're not grouped as 5 at every single point in this game for the next 50 minutes, we will probably lose because Chaos Knight and Wisp will kill us and Lone Druid will get too big. So you know what? Even if everybody tells you not to do that, even if everybody says never stay as 5 for the whole game because you'll get no XP, if that's the way that we don't lose, that's what we're going to do. And so, an incredible game played by both teams. Faded played astonishingly well. They got off to a huge start. Every single part of their strategy succeeded. And it wasn't quite enough, because R2R clumped up. They used their heroes to their fullest extent. The Death Prophet was huge. The Darkseer lived for ages in every fight, and they pulled off their combo. They managed to hold on, and they tipped the fights, and they got the Raxes, and they pushed to victory, still probably at the end more than 10,000 gold down. And so that's why I watched Dota, folks. That was a really good game. I am done for the day. We will resume tomorrow. There's going to be the Losers Bracket Final, and then the Grand Final. So if the games are anywhere as good as this one, then sweet. And if they're not, then that's fine too. Alright, thanks.